Many of you guys were wondering why President Joe Biden was cozying up with Donald Trump in the White House the other day. Well, it turns out Joe Biden was in the midst of starting World War III for Donald Trump before he entered the office. In fact, we have top UN war crimes prosecutor Dr. Francis Boyle joining Alex Jones, explaining how Joe Biden is attempting to start World War III and may face impeachment by the end of the week. This is getting scary here, guys. Hit the like button, subscribe to the channel. You're not going to believe this.
News out of the war in Ukraine, Fox News can confirm that Ukrainian forces have struck Russia using long-range U.S.-made missiles. President Biden approved their use just days ago. Now, Russian President Vladimir Putin is approving a revised nuclear doctrine that lowers the threshold for a nuclear response. Meanwhile, our NATO allies, Finland and Sweden, are now telling citizens to prepare for war. Sweden out with this new video informing residents on how to stockpile food, baby food, medication, and how to seek shelter during a nuclear attack. Sweden also sent out more than 5 million of these pamphlets there on your screen. And Finland posted one on its website, both urging citizens to prepare for the possibility of war and how to prepare for such.
As you know, this new attack with the attackums, technically under the international laws of war, this qualifies as an act of war. And President Putin would be entitled to treat an act of war by the United States of America. And President Putin would be entitled to treat this as an act of war and respond accordingly. And indeed, as you know, he has already stated that an attack by a non-nuclear state in cooperation with a nuclear state such as the United States would make both states co-belligerents against Russia. So the predicate is set there for a war between Russia and the United States. You recall we discussed this, I think it was a year ago, about the dangers presented. It does seem to me that what Biden, or if you want to call them the Bidenites, are trying to do is to sabotage President Trump's peace initiative for Ukraine that he has spoken about, and also Vice President-elect Vance has spoken about, and that they both truly want to set into place, which I believe they can do. And what they have done now is significantly ratchet it up, make it more dangerous. And in my opinion, the Bidenites would like to get us into a shooting war with Russia so that they could hand that over to President Trump and make it extremely difficult for him to pursue a peaceful resolution over Ukraine. So my motivation behind drafting these 3 articles of impeachment is to get the member of the House to introduce them immediately into the House of Representatives. This can be done orally by any member getting up there and reading. The Republicans are in control of the House. They can call an immediate vote. They could have Biden impeached by the end of the week. And that bill of impeachment, the indictment, would then be shipped to the Senate for a trial. In my opinion, doing that would discombobulate the Biden administration. They'd be dead in the water, hopefully dealing with this impeachment effort and buying us time necessary to get to the inauguration on January 20th. That's my strategy as I see.
Guys, this is wild. I cannot believe that I'm reporting this to you guys here on November 20th, Wednesday, 2024. Joe Biden is trying to get us started into a World War III with Russia right now. Articles of impeachment against Joe Biden for illegally bombing Russia have been drafted after the Republican senators and House members call for Biden's removal, impeachment by the end of the week. And many people were wondering, why is Joe Biden smiling and just looking so happy as he met up with Donald Trump in the Oval Office just the other day in the White House? Well, now we may know.
Given their bitter rivalry, it was an encounter many thought could never happen. But today, in front of a roaring fire, the current and future president exhibited warmth.
Congratulations. Thank you. And looking forward to having like we said, smooth transition. Do everything we can to make sure you're accommodated, what you need. And we're going to get a chance to talk about some of that today. So
good.
Welcome
Thank you
back.
very much. And thank you very much. And politics is tough, and it's in many cases not a very nice world, but it is a nice world today, and I appreciate it very much. A transition that's so smooth, it'll be as smooth as it can get, and I very much appreciate that, Jim.
You're welcome.
They conferred in the Oval Office for nearly 2 hours, discussing domestic issues, plus the wars in the Middle East and Ukraine.
The surprise that many of us were not prepared for. The bromance of President Donald Trump and Joe Biden. Now, I hate to say it, but this is the happiest that we've seen President Biden. I don't think that I've seen him smile this much next to Vice President Kamala Harris ever. Now, besides the AI edits of both of them, it's pretty clear that Joe is much happier with the results that he saw in this year's election. To many, it looks as if he even voted for Trump and not Kamala. The difference in his stride and happiness is just uncanny. It's like Trump is talking to a completely different person in President Biden. I mean, we're already seeing memes of both of them playing golf together because they talked about it so much. And if it wasn't for politics, it's possible that these two would have actually been best of friends. But of course, we cannot forget about the DOJ under President Joe Biden has now been hounding Trump since he announced his bid of re-election, calling for the president-elect to be jailed for life. But I guess we can see that Trump is much more forgiving compared to his political rivals. So the idea that Kamala Harris introduced where he would go after these people, it probably won't be happening anytime soon. And I think it's a good time to show the difference between this interaction and how First Lady Jill Biden reacted to Kamala Harris. Remember that this was after Kamala Harris lost by a landslide. Watch. You can clearly see Kamala shaking hands with people and then get completely ignored by Jill Biden. She doesn't even look her way. And it's weird because Dougie was there. I guess they didn't want to kiss right in front of Kamala? I don't know. Compare that frosty reception to how both Joe and Jill Biden are smiling with the 47th president of our country, and you will see quite a difference. There's a joy that Kamala's campaign lost. It was taken all in by Trump and the Bidens. And doesn't it look like both of them voted for Trump? Did you guys notice how Jill Biden is wearing that red outfit? Is she secretly supporting the Republican Conservative Party now? Now, sure, there's a longer clip where Jill Biden and Kamala Harris smiled at each other, but it just looks so forced. It's kind of like they're doing it for publicity's sake. Now, we'll get back to Jill Biden in just a second, but I just want to kind of show you guys just how much heat the Bidens are getting with this Trump interaction. The message from the White House has been very negative toward the president-elect, a message that was spread out by White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre, one that she's having trouble explaining as her own boss is saying that everything's going to be all right under Trump. Watch.
This administration message to millions of Americans that they're going to wake up the day after the election if Trump won and have their rights stripped away, that democracy would crumble, and the president said today we're going to be okay. So how do you square that?
I can't square that. I'm going to square that in a way that hopefully makes sense, because I've been answering this question multiple times. The American people made the decision. There was an election 2 nights ago. There was. And it was a free and fair election. And we respect the election process. We do. And Americans spoke. And so the job of the president is to make sure we respect that. The job of the president is to make sure that we have a peaceful transfer of power. That is what the American people deserve. And that's what we're going to, it's not complicated. It's truly as simple as that. As simple as that. The president called the president-elect, invited him to the White House. You know why? Because that's customary. That is customary. That is what you do. If you respect what the American people decided, that's what you do.
Are any of you guys going to miss Corinne Jean-Pierre when she leaves the White House team? Because some critics feel like she just hasn't answered enough tough questions straight throughout her tenure. Gaslighting us, dancing around questions. But getting back to First Lady Joe Biden here, she invited Melania Trump to a White House meeting of their own. And while the president-elect seems to be in a forgiving mood, the former and soon-to-be First Lady, again, isn't.
It is now confirmed that she will not have a meeting today, though she reached out to Melania Trump for the invite. Incoming First Lady Melania Trump will not be meeting. She tweeted, her office tweeted this morning, Mrs. Trump will not be attending today's meeting at the White House. Her husband's return to the Oval Office to commence the transition process is encouraging, and she wishes him great success. In this instance, several unnamed sources in the media continue to provide false, misleading, and inaccurate information. Be discerning with your source of news. There has been some reporting out there, notably from the New York Post, that the reasoning behind Melania Trump not coming to the White House today is because of that summer 2022 raid on Mar-a-Lago, the Trump's residence. In the documents case, the White House maintained at the time that the president was not informed in the decision-making to raid Mar-a-Lago, but Melania Trump, or her office there, speaking for the first time about her decision not to attend today's meeting.
And I guess it makes sense given that they've called her husband all kinds of names. I mean, they called him a fascist, racist, sexist. They've even called him Hitler. But this just shows us that Democrats really don't believe in the crap that they say, meaning that they were after Trump just so that they could continue to hold on to power. And so now with Trump winning, they're kind of reverting back to welcoming him back to the White House. So this proves without a shadow of a doubt that all that talk about him was just sheer propaganda. It also shows that Trump is doing the right thing because not only is he taking the high road, he's defeated his enemies to a point where they're smiling and they're laughing with him, except for Kamala Harris. I really don't think that she's ever going to be smiling with Donald Trump anytime soon. What do you guys think about that? What do you guys think about that White House meeting? The deep state is not liking this cabinet of President-elect Trump. And that's a good thing because it shows us that he's doing something right. He's straight up pissing off the far left liberals along with a few rhinos. Now, a notable figure being John Bolton. Now, you gotta wonder, why are they so against people like Tulsi Gabbard and Matt Gaetz? Is it because both of them speak their minds without fear? Or is it because they speak the truth? This kind of reminds me when Tulsi Gabbard was on The View. Look at how they react to her as she absolutely destroys them right to their face. Watch.
Some of you have accused me of being a traitor to my country, a Russian asset, a Trojan horse, or a useful idiot, I think was the term that you used. Which basically means that I'm naive or lack intelligence to know what's going on.
They use that.
I want to let your viewers know exactly who I am.
All right.
Set the record straight. I am a patriot. I love our country. I am a strong and intelligent woman of color, and I have dedicated almost my entire adult life to protecting the safety, security, and the freedom of all Americans in this country. It was the attacks on 9/11.
We're getting a little bit far ahead of ourselves, but Franklin Graham finds you refreshing. He doesn't find me refreshing. Richard Spencer, the white nationalist leader, says he could vote for you.
Joy, this is why,
you're on Tucker Carlson at least 10 times. Why don't you go on Chris Wallace's show?
This is why I'm here, because you and other people continue to spread these innuendos that have nothing to do with who I am.
Well, Hillary Clinton started it, and then you shot back at her, boy. You called her the queen of warmongers.
You doubled down, unfortunately, you doubled down on the baseless accusations that she made that strikes at the core of who I am. I'm a soldier. Because of the attacks on 9/11, I enlisted in the military to go after and defeat and destroy the evil that visited us on that day. I've served now for over 16 years, deployed twice to the Middle East during the height of the war, where every single day I saw firsthand the terribly high human cost.
How do you guys feel about a smart, strong woman as the new national intelligence director of our country? A person that would oversee the U.S. intelligence agencies like the FBI, the CIA, and the NSA. Agencies that have not been doing well as of late. In fact, through the Biden-Harris administration, they've done terribly. So would it be safe to say that this outrage isn't anger, but more like fear? The fear that Tulsi Gabbard will actually do her job and protect not just President-elect Trump, but the intelligence of our country as a whole. And in doing so, it's plausible that heads will roll if people are held accountable for their actions. But what does she think about this appointment?
Take us into the room or the airplane when this was offered to you. How did it go down?
We had a great conversation and talked a little bit about the work that needs to be done. And I was grateful and honored to accept President Trump's offer to serve our country and support his objective to defend the safety, security, and freedom of the American people as the Director of National Intelligence.
How do you think foreign capitals are taking your nomination and the nomination of other people in the national security apparatus?
It's a good question. I think President Trump has already shown how active he has been in not waiting around for day one on January 20th or 21st, but he's already leading. He's already engaging with so many of these world leaders around the world on the phone constantly. And he's showing the kind of leadership that the American people voted for.
Do you expect resistance from the inside? Because there was a lot of resistance in the first term. And how would you deal with that?
The American people delivered quite an incredible mandate for change in this election, with the popular vote and the electoral vote overwhelmingly saying, hey, we want Donald Trump as president, and we've had enough of the Harris-Biden regime. Of course, there's going to be resistance to change from the swamp in Washington. I think that's kind of the point. The American people are saying, hey, stop looking at yourselves, stop focusing on your own power, your own position, your own bank accounts. How about we have leaders in Washington who are actually looking out for the American people? And on every issue across the board, that's really what it comes down to with what President Trump is trying to accomplish is we have to make sure that our government puts the interests of the American people first.
Now, I just want to remind you guys that Tulsi Gabbard was placed on a terror watch list by this current administration. And now she's about to head the entire intelligence unit of our country. Also, she was getting this criticism from her previous party, calling her, as you heard on The View, a Russian plant, a conspiracy theory at best with nothing to lean on. But even with all of that, John Bolton said that both Tulsi and Gates, they should be fully investigated by the FBI before taking any place on Trump's cabinet. Now, as you guys may already know, Matt Gaetz has been nominated to be our next attorney general, something that has the establishment very worried. Watch.
I don't think either she or Matt Gaetz ought to have a confirmation hearing until they have both had full field FBI investigations.
Why do you
I think the Chinese would say
FBI investigations
maybe
into
they are
Gabbard?
serious. I think so, given the Russian propaganda that she has espoused over the past period of time. I think she's a serious threat to our national security. I think Republican senators should reject both of them.
Would any of you guys trust the FBI investigation at this moment? The same FBI that's missed key information regarding 2 assassination attempts on President Trump? This is proving something, though. The more of these people within the swamp that come out angry about these nominations, the more that we know that Trump is probably right about his picks, and that these are the very people that he should probably be placing in his cabinet.
The President-elect Donald Trump saying, I am pleased to announce that former Congresswoman Lieutenant Colonel Tulsi Gabbard will serve as the Director of National Intelligence. For over 2 decades, Tulsi has fought for our country and the freedom of all Americans. As the former candidate for the Democratic presidential nomination, she has a broad support in both parties. She is now a proud Republican. I know Tulsi will bring the fearless spirit that has defined her illustrious career in our intelligence community, championing our constitutional rights and securing peace through strength. Tulsi will make us all proud. And we were learning more information yesterday about potential roles for Tulsi in this administration. It would not be the Secretary of Defense. It would not be the Director of the CIA. Instead, it is the Director of the National Intelligence.
Well, I mean, I hope you don't forgive me for saying this, Kristen, but the general vibe on the Hill right now is WTF. People are shocked at the news of Gaetz, especially. I feel like I couldn't even get around to getting reaction on Tulsi Gabbard when this pick of Gaetz came down the pike.
And we haven't even gotten to Tulsi Gabbard potentially having access to national security information. And Russia loves it loves her.
And I actually think almost more than Matt Gaetz, Tulsi Gabbard's appointment is devastating.
With his announcement of Tulsi Gabbard to be the director of national intelligence, he's sending a signal that we have lost our mind when it comes to collecting intelligence.
Now, speaking of propaganda, by the way, let's talk about MSNBC's Joy Reid. She out here campaigning against Trump, even though the race has ended. I covered this in a previous video where I talked about the very big possibility that she, along with other hosts, are fired from the MSNBC network. Make sure you guys check that one out after this one. As always, thanks for hitting the like button and subscribing. Join us over in our Patreon community. Link in the description down below. I'll see you guys on the next one. Take care.